Hi, I want to thank you very much for having me in your home today. I really appreciate it. You have a beautiful home, and I think that this should be a really interesting interview because I heard that you're in the military, but before we get to that, ma'am, could you please say your name and spell it for me?
My name is Patricia Roth, PatriciaRoth.
And for you, sir?
Yeah, I'm her husband, Kevin Roth, Kevinroth.
Okay. So, since you're in the military, what year did you start in the military?
I went in March of 1976, but didn't actually enter the service until May because I had to have a couple surgeries done before I was allowed to go in.
And when you went into the military, what rank were you?
I was an E1, private first class.
So you started at the bottom.
Started at the bottom.
And when you ended your career, what were you?
I was a E7, sergeant first class.
Wow, pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And since all them turmoils and bumps and bruises you went through, I'm sure you have some good stories to tell.
Well,
But-
there were good times and bad times.
But as we sit here today, we also have your beautiful wife, Patricia. Could you tell us when you started with him in the military, what was it like?
Well, we were very young at the time and much inexperienced, but it was a lot of learning, a lot of new things, adaptation to changes, and physically, mentally, and financially. We have learned that very quickly in our young age.
So, since you went through all them things in your life, right? When you first started out in the military with your husband, where were you located?
We were in Italy at the time.
Wow, that's
Yes.
pretty impressive.
Yes,
So, am I correct to assume that you're from Italy?
I am.
Okay. And did you live at your home or did you live on the base?
No, we didn't have post housing,
Oh, okay.
so you would have to rent
So
on,
you
on
had
the
a rent.
economy they
Okay.
call.
Economy,
Yes.
okay. Okay. So, Kevin, how many days were you away from your wife when you were out in the field?
Oh, that varied depending on deployment. Sometimes we'd go out for a week, and then other times we'd go out for 3 to 4 weeks. So just depending on the mission at the time, whatever it entailed, determine the amount of time I'd be away from the family.
Okay. And in your career, what was your job?
I was in field artillery. MLRS was 13 Mike, which is multiple launch rocket system, and yeah, like I said, it's field artillery.
And for the lame people out there that would not know what field artillery is, what is that?
Well, there's various types of field artillery. You got your cannons. That's what some people have heard, cannon cockers. Then you've got different types of artillery that are utilized in the field. Mine was considered, as I said, the multiple launch rocket system, and it consisted of a tracked vehicle, and on the back of the vehicle there was a pod, and each side of the pod held six rockets, so we could fire up to 12 rockets on a given target or 12 individual targets, depending on what the mission was at the time.
And for when you were back at your base and you're back at your location, what did you have your soldiers do for you?
Well, as I progressed up through the ranks, I had to train them to prepare for the upcoming missions at the time. But as an E1, I didn't have soldiers under me, and I actually sometimes liked to be in a lower enlisted only because of the fact that I didn't have those responsibilities. I just had to clean the bathrooms, I had to do the dirty work, which I was used to on the streets, but I didn't have any authority and I didn't have any determination to
So when you hit E4,
then things started to
what was it
change.
like for you to start out with?
Yeah, that's when things changed. They had specialists and then they had corporals. I happened to be a specialist because of what I said, my MOS, and that's when I started. Everybody below me, E3 to E1, then I had to start supervising, but not on the level of an E5 or a sergeant, but more of preparing to become a sergeant.
And when you're in that position of sergeant for yourself, once you had gotten that rank, did your life change a lot more than what it was being just a specialist?
Yes, because you assume a lot more responsibility because you have to remember that everybody below you, you actually have their lives in your hands. So you have to ensure that the training is to the best of your ability because now, you know, one of the models that I liked in the military is being a family of one, you know, and you can't do it by yourself. You have to, it's a cohesion. And I like the idea that I could train my subordinates to respect me because respect and loyalty is not something you're born with. That's something you have to earn. And I did. I have a lot of respect and loyalty from my troops because they respected me as an NCO, non-commissioned officer.
That's a great thing to have. Now for you, Patricia, did you get to meet a lot of interesting people when you were in the military since your husband went from E1 all the way up to E?
You do. You meet people from all walks of life. And so it gives you a perspective of different cultures. And you learn a lot. And we made some really good friends. The unfortunate part is that when you get to be reassigned different places, you sort of lose your friends. I mean, they're not so much more in your life like they used to be. And at that time, we didn't have social media.
Yes, that was a big difference.
Yeah, right.
Now, also, when he did his job, was your schedule hectic because of the different hours or different things like that?
Well, because I'm very family oriented, so I was 100% available to any changes.
Oh, that's really
Yes.
good. And did you get to ever go on the base and see where he worked?
I have, yes.
What did you think of that?
That was kind of overwhelming because there is a lot of military equipment, a lot of traffic, a lot of which I never really questioned much.
So when he got his sergeant, was that one of your proudest days for him in the military when he?
Absolutely, more than once.
Okay.
Yes,
So it's a big deal.
it is a very big deal.
And having that rank where he ended up, again, E7, right?
Yes.
Having that rank where you ended up is going to be a lot of changes in your life because as we know as soldiers, we have, where we start at E1 and we go all the way up to E9. But not everybody makes it to E9.
No.
So how was your sergeant major or command sergeant major in the military, Kevin?
That depended on where I was stationed and what unit I was in at any given time. I had some good ones and I had some bad ones. So it just determined on whichever unit I was in at any given time.
Did any of the officers help you achieve your way through the military or help you in any way to be able to make it easier for you in your life?
No.
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 Okay, that was quick. Okay. And so you didn't have the support of your command.
Well, I had the support of my command, but you know, as I went up through the ranks, you know, officers usually came in because of their college education. So they had the education, you know, from the outside, but they didn't have the military inside education, and that's where I came in. So basically, I had to train them versus them helping me.
And can you tell us what a butter bar is?
Well, it depends. You got first lieutenant and second lieutenant. And I always used to, with officers, it was kind of like, especially when you have like numerous years in the service and you got some new lieutenant, your platoon leader. Like I got a platoon leader when I was in E7 with my platoon. And I always use the expression that with lieutenants, butter bars, as you referred them to, I didn't know whether to salute them or pick them up and burp them.
That's a good one. I like that. Now, as we know, not all officers are very good with their soldiers because they feel that they are more a higher rank than their soldiers. Even when you become an E9, you can still have that friction between your colonel and your E9. But as a wife, did you ever think he would become an officer?
I don't think he wanted to.
You didn't want to.
I don't think he's, because certain expressions that he said, that he just mentioned, that he was more like the working soldier, if I can say.
So he was more I'm sticking with my soldiers and make sure
there you
that
go.
they get back safe.
There you go.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and the big thing is that as a soldier, as I could see from when talking to you guys, is that you want to make sure that anybody that's under your command is taken care of and is. So this is another thing for me, for you, Kevin, because you were taking care of people, and I'm sure you had 18 to 30-year-old people that you had under your charge. What were the problems you had with some of your soldiers?
Well, you got to remember, you know, you don't really start dealing immediately with your subordinates until you make E5, which is a sergeant. And that's when you start getting more interactive with your soldiers. But as you go up through the ranks, you learn to adapt with the different backgrounds of your soldiers, so that by the time, what I liked about the military is the fact that as a certain rank, they always prepared you for the next rank. And so coming up through the ranks, I dealt with a lot of people from a lot of different walks of life. And there wasn't really anything that I could adjust to that I hadn't experienced having grown up in the way I had in the past. I was able to pretty much adapt to anybody who I had subordinate to me. I was able to adapt to their lifestyle.
Oh, okay. That sounds like you pretty much had yourself in your own little bag for yourself, where you knew that you just followed the regulations and did what you had to do, huh?
Regulations were tough with me because it was like I was always one to, I guess I didn't, as they said in the military, kiss butt or lick boots or whatever. I had my ideas of what a leader should be, and although you were supposed to, as a non-commissioned officer, adapt to the point where you're supposed to show your subordinates that whatever your first sergeant or battery commander gave us as a mission, that you supported. But I was never like that. I mean, I would tell them that we had to do the mission, but at the same time, I didn't like it any better than they did. So they could associate, we were on the same sheet of music. We all had to do it together, but I didn't want them to think that I was just doing it and lying to them by saying that I was being loyal to the above, because I wasn't.
Basically, you're a soldier, number one.
I was a soldier number one.
Okay, so with this, you guys used to wear BDUs,
Yeah.
right? Okay, BDUs is a lot different than what we have for AQ, all the stuff they have today. So what was it like to have BDUs and have boots that you had to have shined and everything like that?
Well, the one thing about BDUs is that, see, for me, appearance was always important to me, because how I presented myself to my soldiers is how I looked on any given day to both my commander and my first sergeant, as well as my subordinates. And so I used to spend hours starching my BDUs and spend hours spit shining my boots so shiny that you could actually shave in them. I mean, in fact, we even took coffee cans and we'd cut out the top and bottom of the coffee can and we put them in our above our boots, so that when we bloused them, it would have a perfect roundness to our blousing. So it was just like a poster child.
And this is what soldiers today don't understand. People had to go through back then with BDU. And for me, I understand BDU because I had BDU at one time. So I was able to get the drift of what we had to do. I was only in it for a few years, but you had it for much longer. As a wife with BDUs, right, I'm sure that was fun.
Well, I can tell you that he did it all himself. I did not touch his uniform. I did not touch his boots. And let me tell you also that when it came to Well, this is different. It's a Class A uniform. Can I talk about
Yeah,
that?
you can, yeah.
Okay. He will spend hour to make sure that it's to the millimeter. Yes. I mean hours.
So his ribbons had to be perfect.
Absolutely.
Not 1
Yeah.
inch off. If they came to measure.
A
it,
millimeter off, not even a,
millimeter,
yeah, a
yeah.
millimeter. Yes. Yeah.
So,
It was very important. Yeah.
so was that kind of, you're used to him doing that? So
Oh, totally.
so it was kind of like you knew your husband was going to impress whoever saw him in that uniform.
It was very important to him. Yeah, absolutely.
And when I was in, it was very important that we had everything to a cue.
Yes.
Because our reputation was on the line as a soldier, and our rank was on the line because we had other soldiers underneath us.
Yeah.
Now, as being a captain in the military, it was a little bit different for me because I had a little more of the officer side of it, but I always made sure my soldiers were always taken care of. I feel bad that he didn't have the same thing, that his soldiers weren't taken care of by the officers, because the officers are there to make sure that their command runs smoothly, and you can't do that without communication with your soldiers.
Well, you know, I wouldn't say they didn't have the support of the officers, but if they had to go to the officers, then I wouldn't be doing my job. I was the responsible party for them, and the officers weren't. They had their things to do. So it's not like they weren't there for them if they were needed,
Yeah.
but I didn't want them to go to the officers and jump the chain of command.
So did you ever get your butt chewed because of your soldiers?
Yes, I did, because my soldiers, they did some things that soldiers do, especially the young ones coming in as private, you know, E1s, E2s, and like I did, they're carrying their past on into the military off the streets, and sometimes I had to cover for them.
So with everything that you've gone through, you're retired now from the military.
Yes,
You've been
yes, I
retired
am.
quite a bit. And after what you see today with military soldiers, would you say they could hack it back then when you were in?
No.
Hey, you're being honest. That's true.
Yeah, no.
A lot of them can't. Yes.
Yeah, no.
It's
It's a big difference.
Today we have, you know, safety cards and all these different things, and it's not the same as what it used to be for the military, what we were in.
Well, in fact, the whole structure of the military just started changing into about my 18th year. And that, you know, when I first came in, E1s respected E2s, respected E3s, respected E4. The rank was respected. But as we got further into and time started changing, the whole military structure changed, and it wasn't for the better.
So it started going downhill.
Started going downhill. It definitely started to go downhill. In fact, that was one of the reasons why at 19 years I actually put in my retirement paperwork, because I was going to get up at 19 instead of 20 because I just couldn't deal with the change anymore.
But you ended up staying till the 20s. And
That's another story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I got my 20 plus years
Yeah.
in, but that was a different story.
well, the big thing is that, you know, you did your career and you served this country, which thank you very much for both of you. And because it takes more than just one to serve. And being a wife of a military person is very hard, and I do know that. And I think that having you two today doing this interview for me is very honoring. But before we go, I'm going to ask you one question, Patricia. Is this something that you thought you'd ever do as a family sitting down on a couch and doing an interview?
No, never.
How about you, Kevin?
No, because my career had a lot of ups and downs, more downs than ups. I really didn't. There was sometimes I didn't think or believe I'd make it for my full 20 years to retirement, because there was a lot of rocky times, and no, I'm actually surprised the way everything ended up, that I actually retired as an E7, but no, I would have never believed it when it gotten to this point, but I'm proud I did it.
Yes, and you should be proud, both of you. And as we end this interview at this time, I would like to find out, what would you say to the soldiers today?
Whew. I don't know what I'd say to the soldiers today because it's a whole different. The whole structure of the military's changed, and so what I would say to my subordinates then would not even hold any water to today's military. So
it's totally
you know,
different,
it's totally different. I mean, yeah, everything's different today. It's really hard to tell you what I'd say to them directly because the whole military structure has changed that much from the time I was in to today.
And for you, Patricia, if you had one thing to say to the U.S. Army, because that's what he was in with you, how would you say to somebody who is a family member who is a little bit scared or nervous for their soldier going off to war or anything like that?
Well, it's